thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of European citizens are considering leaving their home countries due to the growing pressure of the agenda being implemented across the continent. Today we will break down what this agenda entails, how it's affecting European societies, and most importantly, what you can do to change the course of your life. Let's start with the first point. Pensions. The aging of the European population and the shrinking workforce have led to a growing deficit in pension systems. Countries like Spain, Greece, and France are among the most affected, with a high average age and a declining number of contributors to sustain the system. This has led governments to raise the retirement age, sparking mass protests in cities all over Europe, being a Ponzi scheme where new entrants fill the pot for those at the top of the pyramid. It's only a matter of time before the situation becomes unsustainable. This needs to be mentioned alongside the political factor. If pensions go up by €5, all persons vote for whoever increased the budget. But what they don't realize is that because of this, they are affecting the next 5, 10, 15 or 20 years of their children or grandchildren, who are the ones who will truly suffer. The second key point is taxation in Europe. How the policy is driven by the European Parliament and transforming not only the US economy but also its citizens' future. From Brussels, there is constant pressure toward tax harmonization, which has led to widespread increases in both personal and corporate taxes across the EU. Countries traditionally known for low taxation, such as Bulgaria, Romania, and even Cyprus, are increasingly being pressured to raise their revenues. In fact, we have already seen in this year in Romania, many people, even though taxes remain relatively low, are deciding to leave because they are not liking the direction their country is taking. Moreover, this growing tax pressure doesn't just affect companies and high-income individuals. It also hits the middle class, whose purchasing power is being eroded as new taxes are introduced. In fact, the European dream, unlike the American one, is to make money, leave Europe for somewhere you are not mistreated by taxes, earn big abroad paying little tax or no taxes, achieve a better quality of life, and maybe return occasionally to your country to see your family, to see your friends. Many people, after 5 or 10 years, return to their home country because they have retired or grown their business enough and no longer value tax savings as much. This tends to happen more in Spain than elsewhere in Europe, since food, lifestyle and prices often don't match expectations there. As I said, tax hikes don't just hit the rich. Spain and Norway, for example, have introduced wealth taxes ranging from 0.16% to 3.5%, representing an added burden for citizens with assets of certain value. Add to this the EU's emissions trading system, which has introduced carbon taxes that now affect not just business but ordinary citizens. The shift toward a green economy is resulting in massive costs for the population, driving up everyday living expenses. Then there is the matter of raising the minimum wage without adjusting the income tax brackets, for example the personal income tax. That means you now have to pay tax on wages you previously didn't, and when you add inflation into the mix, you end up worse off than the year before. Promoting green energy is undoubtedly a top priority in Europe, and its influence has reached even regions outside the continent, like South Asia. The push for sustainability is being used to accelerate the fourth industrial revolution, not just in Europe but across the globe. However, this process comes with high costs that mostly affect the middle class, while offering a multi-billion euro business opportunity to certain industries. Now I want to mention a meme we saw on social media in recent weeks, months, that clearly illustrates the situation. It shows the US and China battling over their artificial intelligence, while Europe is busy making sure plastic bottle caps don't detach to avoid pollution. It's ridiculous. VAT has also been increasing in many European countries. Currently, VAT rates range from 17% to 27% across member states. One of the most extreme examples is Greece, where VAT reaches 24% on many essential goods and services. This kind of indirect taxation makes everyday life in crisis stricken Europe even harder, hitting both citizens and businesses. Some countries are even removing reduced taxes or exemptions on basic necessities, which is absolute madness. I always say, and I will keep saying, that VAT, along with inflation and parts of social security, are the worst taxes, and most people are not even aware of it. Another major issue currently plaguing Europe is the housing crisis, with rental prices reaching unaffordable levels in cities like Madrid, Barcelona, Lisbon, Amsterdam, Berlin, and many others. We already know housing is hard to manage, especially when the state's only response is to keep regulating everything instead of providing real solutions. Many blame the housing shortage on increased foreign investment in real estate, partly driven by residency by investment programs. But if you look the actual numbers and all the housing stock, for example in Spain, the figure is insignificant. Since I'm not a real estate expert, it would be very interesting to discuss this issue with true specialists to understand the full picture, not just what they show on TV. Another reason I believe Europe is in decline is due to the high rates of illegal immigration, which have placed significant pressure on European welfare systems. Unfortunately, as you know, major European cities are seeing a rise in crime and a decline in public services, mainly due to increased demand for resources. Cities like Brussels, Amsterdam, Vienna, Berlin, and Barcelona have been particularly affected by the migration crisis. In fact, nearly every day we see a new headline, or as they call it, yet another isolated incident. I want to share a tweet that I found quite interesting, and I would like to hear your thoughts in the comments. Germany for the Germans, Palestine for the Palestinian, Spain for the Spanish, Muslim countries for Muslims, Christian countries for Christians. Here is where you will get the usual backlash saying this is far-right rhetoric or that we want to kick Muslims out of Europe. But it's very simple. As with everything, there are radicals who want zero Muslims in the country and others who want them all. Here is how I see it. They can come to Europe, but the rules will remain Christian. Just like all Christians or those raised in that culture, even if they don't practice religion, have grown up with certain cultural values, when they go to the Middle East, those countries shouldn't be expected to abandon Sharia law just to suit Western expectations. What I'm saying is, it's fine for everyone to move if they are not comfortable in their home country, but if those movements end up destabilizing either a European country or one in the East by creating problems with traditions, security, or anything else, then it must be addressed. Otherwise, we will suffer what Europe is already experiencing, only on an even greater scale. Now, if there is one red flag that sets off every alarm, it's the rise of digital control in the EU, because they are no longer even hiding their authoritarian ambitions. The advancement of technologies like CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, amongst others, is raising serious concerns about financial surveillance and loss of privacy for all citizens. And let's be clear, they will be able to control the entire monetary system even more. They will inject inflation whenever they want, create money that expires, and control everything, how, where, and when you are allowed to spend it, and slap on taxes whenever they feel like it. Moreover, the pressure from the European Parliament isn't limited to taxes. It also extends to residency by investment programs, which have reshaped the immigration landscape in many EU countries. To be fair, these programs, if executed properly, can bring massive foreign investment into a country. But of course, that's not what Europe wants. A clear example is Portugal, where the Golden Visa program attracted thousands of foreign investors, revitalizing the local economy and turning the country into a haven for high net worth individuals. However, increasing regulations have made these programs more restrictive, limiting the options for those looking to establish themselves in Europe through investment. Another example is Montenegro's citizenship by investment program, which was cancelled, or Spain's golden visa, which is being scrapped this year, or the NHR in Portugal, which had to be shut down, and the list goes on. Faced with this scenario, you are probably asking, what can I do to take control of my future? First of all, if you have location-independent income, consider moving to a country with less regulation and lower state control. Many wealthy Europeans left the EU during past crises and settled in regions with greater economic freedom. During the major wars of the 20th century, South America, for instance, was a key destination for those seeking stability, and it remains an attractive option today. Countries like Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, or Chile offer opportunities and those seeking residency in environments with fewer government restriction and more fiscal flexibility. If you are looking elsewhere in the world, there are countries like Mauritius, Indonesia, the UAE, or the Philippines. If you value freedom, financial stability, and the ability to maintain a lifestyle free from interference without a doubt, now is the time to consider an alternative plan. Because yes, friends, the EU, once a symbol of freedom and democracy, is clearly evolving into a model of excessive control and regulation. And it's up to you whether you stay at its mercy or take action to protect your wealth and the future of yourself and your family. If you need help in this movement, I invite you to fill out the form in the description and we can get in touch. No matter where you live or born, there is always a solution.